The massive space station floated in the darkness between stars. It was called the Accord Spire, and it was the heart of the galactic Concord. 7 ancient species ruled the galaxy from this place. They had done so for 12,000 years. No one challenged them. No one dared. Admiral Cole stood at the window of her ship, the Endurance. She watched the station grow larger as they approached, was 53 years old with gray hair and tired eyes. She had spent 30 years in the United Earth Navy. She had seen many things, but nothing like this. "Admiral, they are letting us dock," said Lieutenant from his station. He was young, maybe 25, and nervous. "Good, tell Ambassador we leave in 20 minutes. Ambassador Gabriel was waiting in the shuttle bay. He was a tall man with a kind face. He believed in peace. He believed that talking could solve any problem, respected him for that, even if she did not share his hope. "The Concord will hear us today," Gabriel said as they boarded the shuttle. "This is our chance, Admiral. We can find our place in the galaxy without fighting." "I hope you are right, Ambassador." The inside of the Accord Spire was beyond anything had imagined. The halls stretched for miles. Aliens of every kind walked past them. She saw the creatures like giant insects with clicking mouths. She saw the Prism Collective, beings made of living crystal that shimmered with light. She saw the snake-like creatures with cold, watching eyes. All of them looked at the humans like they were insects, like they were nothing. The grand chamber sat at the center of the station. It was a round room, very large, designed to make visitors feel small. 7 platforms rose high above the floor. On each platform sat one of the high counselors. At the bottom, in the center, was a small circle where visitors had to stand. Gabriel stepped into the circle, stayed at the edge of the room with the guards. Her hand rested near her weapon. "Honored counselors," Gabriel began. His voice was calm and strong. "Humanity comes to you today not as conquerors, not as beggars. We come as equals. We want to join the galactic community. We want to share knowledge. We want to help keep the peace you have built." Silence filled the room. Then the counselor spoke. Its translator turned the clicking sounds into flat words. "The young species talks about being equals. Does it know what that means?" "We believe we do, Counselor." "Then you know that equality must be earned. Your kind learned to fly 300 years ago. You are Bobbies. Bobbies do not sit with elders." Gabriel kept his face calm. "We have much to learn, but we also have much to give. We are creative. We adapt quickly. We could help the conquered in many ways." "Your violence," the counselor interrupted. Its voice was like a hiss. "We have studied your history, your wars, your killing. You are dangerous. We have grown past those dark times." "Have you?" The Prism Counselor flashed through many colors. "Your ships carry weapons. Your soldiers train to fight. Even now, your admiral is ready to draw her gun in our sacred chamber." Every eye in the room turned too. She did not move. She did not blink. Gabriel tried to save the moment. "Defense is not attack, counselors. Surely you understand the need for safety." The oldest counselor finally spoke. His name was Prelate. He was an architect, one of the species that had created the conquered long ago. His skin was deep blue. His eyes held the weight of centuries. "We understand many things, Ambassador. We understand that your species has potential. We also understand that potential can become danger." He paused. "The conquered will consider your request, but there are conditions." "Tell me." "You will destroy 70% of your fleet. You will allow us to watch your home system at all times. You will give us samples of every human's blood for our records, and you will stop all research into certain technologies, advanced communication, artificial intelligence, new materials." Watched Gabriel's face. The diplomat was good at hiding his feelings, but she saw the flash of fear in his eyes. "Counselor, those conditions would leave us helpless." "Yes," Prelate agreed. "As all young species must be, until they prove they can be trusted. This is the way of the conquered, this is the price of peace. Gabriel looked back at. She shook her head just a little. I must speak with my government, Gabriel said carefully. You have 30 days. After that we will assume you have refused, and we will act. The guards led them back to the Endurance in silence. Only when they were safe behind closed doors did Gabriel let his mask fall. They do not want peace, he said, falling into a chair. They want us on our knees. They want control, replied. Like every empire in history, the question is what we do about it. What can we do? You saw their fleet. Thousands of warships just in this area. We have maybe 50 ships that can fight. Pulled up a map of the stars on the room's screen. 50 in service now. Another 100 being built or in storage, plus the defense weapons around Earth and the colonies. Against their millions, it is not enough. No, not yet, studied the map. But 30 days is a long time, and humans have always been good at surprises. What do you mean? I mean we start planning, we find allies, we build what we can, and we show the conquered that they made a mistake. Gabriel stared at her. You are talking about war. I am talking about survival. They are not offering us peace, ambassador. They are offering us a slow death. The only choice is whether we accept it lying down or standing up. She turned to her communication officer. Lieutenant, open a secure channel to Fleet Command. Highest priority. Admiral, what are you planning? Smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Her eyes were hard like steel. I am planning to give the conquered an answer they will never forget, one that will shake the galaxy to its core. Gabriel watched her, this woman who had spent her life serving humanity. He saw the determination in her face, the fire that burned behind her eyes, and for the first time since the peace talks had failed, he felt something other than despair. He felt hope. The conquered had ruled for 12,000 years. They thought they knew everything. They thought they had seen everything. They had never seen anything like humanity. And they were about to learn what happened when you pushed humans too far. The message from Admiral Cole reached Earth in 12 hours. It traveled through a chain of relay stations across 200 light-years of empty space. By the time her shuttle landed at Fleet Headquarters in Geneva, the emergency meeting had already been going for 6 hours. Secretary General Martinez met at the door. She was a small woman with fierce eyes and the kind of voice that made people listen. Admiral Cole, thank you for coming so fast. Madam Secretary, what is happening? Chaos. Half the council wants to accept what the conquered offered. They are scared of being destroyed. The other half wants to fight. Nobody knows what will actually happen if we say no. I can help with that last part. The council chamber was packed with people. Leaders from every nation on Earth and the 12 colony worlds filled the room. Knew many of their faces. These were the men and women who had spent their lives building humanity's place among the stars. Now they all looked at her with fear and hope mixed together. She walked to the front of the room. I will be brief. The Galactic Conquered has offered us terms that would end our freedom. We would become their servants, our technology watched, our people counted like animals, our future decided by creatures who see us as barely more than bugs. And if we refuse, someone called out. Then we fight, not today, not next month, but someday. If we accept their terms, we become completely dependent on them, and everything we know tells us their kindness will not last. You want us to fight an enemy that has 1,000 ships for every one of ours, said Admiral Jonathan Price from the back. He was an old friend of S. No, I want us to prepare to fight. That is different. Turned on the room's holographic display. Stars and fleet positions filled the air above the delegates. For 10 years, our intelligence officers have been studying the Conquered's military. Their technology is advanced, but it is also old and unchanged. They have not faced a real enemy in 6,000 years. And we are supposed to be that enemy. Not alone, She zoomed in on a part of space. "We have been making friends." The display changed to show a dozen smaller species. Most people in the room had never heard of them. The collective, the broken chain, all of them were conquered by the conquered. All of them have been waiting for someone to stand up. "You are talking about rebellion," Secretary General Martinez said quietly. "I am talking about survival. The conquered is not offering us peace. They are offering us a slow death. The only question is whether we die on our feet or on our knees." The argument that followed lasted 18 hours. People yelled, people cried, people threatened to walk out. But in the end, the vote was clear enough. Humanity would refuse the conquered's terms, and they would get ready for whatever came next. The following weeks were a blur of activity. Factories that had been quiet suddenly worked day and night. Research centers that had been closed were opened again. And across the colonies, young people lined up to join the military. Captain Henry Blake was one of them. He was 41 years old and had spent 20 years in the colonial defense forces. A stupid argument with a superior officer had put him behind a desk for years. When the call went out for experienced officers, he was one of the first to answer. "Welcome to the Constellation, Captain." Commander Foster met him at the door of the new ship. She was a compact woman with short hair and quick movements. "I hope you are ready to work. We joined the Third Fleet in 2 days, and half our systems are not working yet." "Then we better start now." The Constellation was one of 63 ships in the new Providence class. They were designed using everything humanity had learned about conquered technology. Faster than anything in the current fleet, more guns, and a new stealth system that could hide them from conquered sensors. Henry spent the next 2 days learning every part of his ship. He met Chief Engineer Martinez, who could make machines do things they were never designed to do. He met Lieutenant, the weapons officer, who was calm on the outside but burning with competitive fire inside. And he met Ensign Long, fresh from the academy, young and eager and scared all at once. On the 3rd day, the Constellation joined the growing fleet at a meeting point far from any inhabited system. Had picked this place because no one would look here. It was close to a path through space that led straight to conquered territory. "Ladies and," his voice came through every ship's speakers, "in 24 hours our deadline ends. When it does, we expect the conquered to send a message. We are going to send one first." The plan was crazy. 20 ships would use the hidden path to reach a conquered military base at Theta. They would not attack the base itself, which had over 100 warships. Instead, they would destroy the communications relay that connected it to the rest of conquered space. "We are not trying to win a battle," explained. "We are trying to send a message. The conquered thinks we are weak, scared, and alone. We need to show them they are wrong." Henry listened from his station on the Constellation. He ran the numbers in his head. If the conquered responded fast enough, they would be outnumbered 5-1. The stealth systems had never been tested in real combat. 1,000 things could go wrong. But he also knew why they had to do this. Humanity needed to prove something to itself. They needed to show that they would not go quietly into the dark. "All ships, this is Admiral Cole. We jump in 60 seconds." Henry watched his crew do their final checks. Their faces were tight with focus and fear. When the drives activated and the ship jumped through space, the familiar lurch felt different, heavier, more final. They came out of the jump in perfect formation. 20 human ships against the backdrop of an alien star system. The communications relay hung in space ahead of them. It was a huge structure covered in antennas and glowing with energy. "All ships fire at will." The Constellation's guns spoke. Energy and metal screamed toward the relay. Around them, the other ships added their fire. The structure began to break apart in a spectacular explosion. The conquered responded exactly as expected. Fighters and small ships launched to stop them, but the Providence-class ships were already moving. Their speed carried them away before the enemy could catch them. "All targets destroyed," announced. "All ships prepare to jump." They vanished into the void moments before the Conquered's big ships could reach them. They left behind nothing but wreckage and a clear message. Humanity would not submit. The galaxy had been warned. The real war was about to begin. The Conquered's answer came faster than anyone expected. 3 days after the attack on Theta, 3 enemy battle groups crossed into human space. Their message was simple and cold. "You struck first," Prelate's recorded voice declared. "Now you will face the results. Surrender completely or watch your worlds burn." Admiral Cole received the message on her new flagship, the Unity. It was a huge ship, the biggest humanity had ever built. She watched the recording 3 times before sending her reply. "Prelate, this is Admiral Cole. Humanity does not surrender, we do not give up, and we do not accept threats from those who would make us slaves." She paused. "If you want our worlds, come and take them." The first big battle happened 3 days later in the system. 400,000 people lived on the colony there, mostly farmers. They had already moved to underground shelters when the Conquered fleet appeared. Captain Henry Blake watched from the constellation as the enemy ships took their positions. 18 capital ships, 43 cruisers, more fighters than he could count. Against them stood the Third Fleet with 12 capital ships and 28 cruisers. "This is it, everyone," he said to his crew. "Everything we trained for comes down to now. I want sharp shooting. I want discipline. And I want every single one of you to come home when this is over." The battle started the way Conquered battles always started. They gathered their biggest ships together and charged at one point in the human line. It was a tactic that had worked for thousands of years against every enemy they had faced. It did not work against humanity. The Third Fleet had spread out in a pattern the Conquered computers could not predict. When the enemy ships committed to their attack, human vessels appeared on their sides. They hit hard and fast, then pulled back behind asteroids and debris before the enemy could hit back. "Constellation, target the carrier's flight deck," came the order from Fleet Command. "Stop them from launching more fighters." "Understood," Henry turned to Lieutenant. "Give them everything we have." The Constellation moved through the battle like a shadow. Her stealth systems made her nearly invisible to enemy targeting. She struck from angles they did not expect. She delivered her weapons and vanished before they could respond. The other Providence-class ships did the same, turning the enemy's numbers into a weakness. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Conquered had lost 4 capital ships and 9 cruisers. The Third Fleet lost 2 cruisers and 1 carrier. More importantly, the enemy had been forced to run away. For the first time in 6,000 years, the Galactic Conquered had lost a battle. News of the victory spread across human space within hours. On Earth, crowds gathered in the streets to celebrate. On the colonies, people cried with joy and relief, but knew better than to let happiness cloud her thinking. "We won a battle," she told her officers. "We have not won the war. The Conquered has thousands of ships. They will come back with more." She was right. 2 weeks later, they attacked the Barnard system. Then Wolf 359. Each time, human forces managed to hold, but the cost grew higher with every fight. It was during the defense of Tau that first met. She was a species that looked like Earth cats walking on 2 legs. The Conquered had conquered her people 300 years ago. She had spent her whole life working secretly for freedom. "We have waited a long time for a species like yours," said. Her translator turned her growls into soft English. "One that would stand instead of kneel." "We are barely standing," admitted. "Our losses are growing. The Conquered can keep fighting forever. We cannot." "Then maybe it is time to change how we fight," held out a small crystal. "The Conquered has a weakness, one they have hidden for thousands of years. If you are willing to take a risk, we can use it." The crystal contained information that made blood run cold. The Conquered's power did not come from their military alone. At the heart of their civilization was something called the Nexus. It was a network of ancient machines that controlled everything: communications, space travel, the energy that powered their worlds. The architects had built it when the Conquered began. No one had ever challenged it because no one could reach it. Until now. The Nexus is in the Architect Home System, explained. It is protected by the largest fleet in the galaxy, shields that can stop anything except a star exploding. But there is a weak point. Every 1,000 years they must adjust the Nexus. During that time, the shields go down for exactly 6 hours. The next adjustment happens in 47 days. You want us to attack during those 6 hours. I want us to destroy the Nexus completely. Without it, the Conquered cannot coordinate. Their fleets will not be able to talk to each other. Their economy will fall apart. Their member species will turn on each other as old hatreds come back. Stared at the hologram of the Nexus. It was massive, bigger than anything humans had ever built. This is a suicide mission. Even with the shields down, their fleet will tear any attack apart. Maybe, but your species has already done the impossible once. Why not again? Took the crystal and promised to think about it, but she was already planning how to make it work. In the following weeks, human forces kept fighting their desperate defense. The Providence-class ships proved themselves again and again, but there were fewer of them after each battle. The Unity herself took damage near Epsilon. Through it all, kept thinking about information, the Nexus, the weak point, the impossible chance. Finally, 31 days before the window opened, she called her senior officers together. I am not going to pretend this is anything other than what it is, she said. A desperate gamble with almost no chance of working, but I believe it is our only real chance of ending this war before the Conquered crushes us completely. She explained the plan in detail. Volunteers would fly at top speed to the Architect Home System using routes they had mapped. They would arrive at the exact moment the shields came down. They would fire special weapons into the heart of the Nexus. Success would cripple the Conquered forever. Failure would cost humanity its best ships and crews. I need volunteers, finished. I will not order anyone on this mission. The first hand to go up belonged to Captain Henry Blake. The constellation is ready, Admiral. Others followed. Within an hour, had 24 ships crewed by men and women who knew exactly what they were agreeing to do. We leave in 3 days, said. Make your preparations, write your letters, say your goodbyes, then report to your ships. We have a galaxy to shake. The strike force gathered in deep space, far from any star that might attract attention, had picked this spot herself. A point of pure darkness where humanity could make its final preparations in secret. Captain Henry Blake stood on the constellation's observation deck. He watched the other ships take their places. 24 vessels, just under 3,000 crew members. All of humanity's hopes packed into a group of ships that could fit inside one large asteroid. Captain, Commander Foster appeared next to him. The crew is ready. Chief Martinez says the engines are running better than ever. Good, how is everyone feeling? Honest, I think. They know what we are facing, but they also know why. That matters. Henry nodded. He had given a short speech earlier, nothing fancy, just a reminder of what they were fighting for. Home, family, the future, the things that made any risk worth taking. Admiral Cole's voice came through the fleet channel. All ships, this is the Admiral. We begin our journey in 1 hour. From now on, no talking unless absolutely necessary. The Conquered does not know we are coming. We must keep it that way. The path to the Architect Home System was like a maze, unstable space routes and unknown regions. Scouts had spent decades mapping it. Many had died doing so. The journey would take the strike force 38 days. They would slip past Conquered patrols and supply lines like ghosts. The first week passed without problems. The ships moved together while the crews fell into their daily routines. Henry held meetings every day. He reviewed battle plans. He made sure his people got enough sleep. He also walked through every part of the constellation, talking with crew members about their homes and families. It was during one of these walks that he found Ensign Long in the cargo bay. The young man was staring at a photograph. "Family?" Henry asked. Nodded. "My sister and her kids. They live on Tau. We're living there, after the evacuation. The shelters on Tau are holding. I checked the reports." "I know it is just." The young man could not finish. "I keep thinking about what happens if we fail, not to us, to everyone back home." Henry sat down beside him. "When I was your age, I had the same fears. Different war, smaller stakes, but the same feeling of carrying something too heavy." "How did you handle it?" "I focused on what I could control. My ship, my crew, my own choices. The rest I had to trust to other people who were trying just as hard as me. That is all any of us can do." Thought about this for a moment. Then he put the photograph back in his pocket. "Thank you, Captain." On day 15, disaster almost struck. A Concord patrol jumped into space less than a minute away from the strike force. They were close enough that their sensors should have spotted the human ships immediately. "All ships emergency silent running," ordered. "Cut all power, drift only." The next 4 hours were the longest of Henry's life. The constellation floated dead in space. The crew barely breathed. Every minute Henry expected alarms. He expected enemy ships to turn toward them. He expected the mission to end in fire. But the patrol moved on. Their sensors somehow missed the human formation. Later, they figured out that information about Concord's sensor weaknesses had been very accurate. Whatever the reason, the strike force had survived. They crossed into Architect territory on day 32. This was space no human had ever seen. The systems here were ancient. Their stars were old. Their planets held civilizations that had existed when humans were still living in caves. "It is beautiful," whispered as they passed through a cloud of colored gas that glowed like nothing any human artist had ever painted. "It is," Henry agreed, "and it is ours to protect, all of it if we do this right." The Architect home system appeared on their sensors 6 days later. It was everything the intelligence had described. 12 planets, 3 of them with life, all of them circling a yellow star that looked like Earth's sun. And at the heart of the system, floating between the star and its largest planet, hung the Nexus. It was a structure of impossible size. Crystal towers and energy lines stretched across millions of kilometers. Ships moved around it like bees around a hive. Its glow was visible from very far away. "Concord fleet is where we expected," reported. 600 capital ships, unknown numbers of smaller vessels. The shields are still up, but they will start the adjustment in about 3 hours. Henry studied the display. The plan was simple because anything complicated would fall apart in real combat. All 24 ships would fly straight at the Nexus at top speed, and other allies would create distractions across Concord space. Simple and brutal. "All ships, this is Admiral Cole." His voice was calm and steady. "We have come a long way together, farther than any of us probably thought possible. Whatever happens in the next few hours, serving with you has been the greatest honor of my life." She paused. "Now let us make history. All ships attack." The strike force surged forward. Engines burned at maximum power. Conquered ships moved to stop them, but the human vessels were faster. Their stealth systems confused enemy formations. The first wave of defenders fell to coordinated fire, opening a path. "Nexus shields are flickering," reported. "They are starting the adjustment." "Stay on course," Henry ordered. "All weapons get ready." The shields came down. For exactly 6 hours, the Nexus would be unprotected. The human ships had maybe 20 minutes to reach it, fire their weapons, and escape before the conquered fleet crushed them. They made it in 15. "Fire everything," Henry commanded. "Empty the magazines." The constellation released every weapon she had, hundreds of warheads designed to pierce the Nexus's structure. Around her, the other ships did the same. A storm of destruction hammered into the ancient machine. The explosions that followed could be seen across the system. Crystal towers shattered, energy lines burst. The Nexus flickered, dimmed, and then began to die. "Direct hits confirmed," shouted. "The Nexus is going down." The conquered fleet responded with fury. Beams of energy cut through space, catching human ships in deadly fire. The cruiser Providence took a direct hit and broke apart. The destroyer Valiant vanished in a ball of flame. One by one, ships of the strike force fell. "Admiral Cole, the constellation will cover your escape," Henry said. "Get out while you can." "No, Captain. We all leave together or not at all." "Admiral, with respect, someone has to tell the story. Someone has to let them know what we did here." There was a long pause. Then's voice came back, thick with emotion. "Henry, thank you for everything." "It has been an honor, Admiral. Constellation out." The constellation turned toward the oncoming enemy fleet. Her weapons still fired. Her engines still burned. Behind her, the surviving ships began their escape, carrying news of humanity's greatest victory. Henry Blake watched the enemy ships grow larger on his screen. He felt something he had not expected: peace. They had done it. Against all odds, they had struck a blow that would echo forever. The rest was up to others now. He looked at his crew, at her station, still firing, standing tall despite his fear, keeping the engines running, all of them giving everything they had. "It has been an honor serving with all of you," Henry said quietly. The conquered fleet filled the screen. And then there was light. The destruction of the Nexus sent waves of chaos across the galaxy. Within hours, conquered communication networks began to fail. Within days, fleets that had worked together perfectly for thousands of years found themselves alone, unable to receive orders or talk with their allies. Within weeks, the careful structure of galactic civilization started to break. Admiral Cole brought the surviving ships home to a hero's welcome. Of the 24 vessels that had made the journey to the Architect home system, 7 returned. The constellation was not among them. Stood at the memorial service on Earth. The crowd stretched as far as she could see. She read the names of those who had fallen. Nearly 2,000 men and women who would never see their families again. Friends, colleagues, heroes. "They gave everything," she said, her voice carrying across the silent crowd. "Not for glory, not for conquest, but for the simple belief that humanity deserved a chance to choose its own path among the stars." In the months that followed, the conquered's retreat became a complete collapse. Species that had been conquered for centuries rose up against their masters. Old enemies turned on each other without the Nexus to keep order. The great empire that had ruled the galaxy for 12,000 years began to shatter into 1,000 pieces. Ambassador Gabriel, who had once believed so deeply in talking and compromise, found himself negotiating from a position of power for the first time. "We do not want revenge," he told the conquered leaders at the peace talks. "We do not want tribute or slaves. We simply ask to be treated as equals, partners in building something better than what came before." Prelate, his authority reduced but not completely gone, agreed to the terms. The peace that followed was not perfect. It was fragile. It faced constant threats from those who could not accept the new order, but it held. 20 years later, Cole stood on the bridge of a new flagship. It was called the Constellation II, named in honor of the ship and crew that had made everything possible. The view screen showed a gathering of ships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Hundreds of species, former enemies and new friends, all united for a common purpose. "We gather today," announced, her voice carried to every ship in the fleet, "to begin the galactic assembly. Not a group of masters and servants, but a true partnership of equals. This moment was bought with sacrifice, with courage, and with the belief that no species has the right to decide another's future." She thought of Henry Blake, of the crew of the Constellation, of everyone who had given their lives for this moment. We honor them not with words but with actions, by building a galaxy where every voice matters, where every people can reach for the stars without fear, where the answer to bullying is not surrender but standing together. The fleet before her lit up with signals of agreement. Lights spread from ship to ship like a wave of hope across the darkness of space. The old ways are finished. A new age begins today, and this time we write the story together. In the observation room of the Constellation II, a young officer watched the celebration through the window. Lieutenant Commander Long had come a long way from the scared young man in the cargo bay of the original Constellation. His hair was starting to gray now. His face showed the marks of 20 years of service. "Quite a sight, is it not?" Commander Foster joined him. Her hair was gray now too, but her eyes were as sharp as ever. "I keep thinking about Captain Blake," admitted. "About what he said to me before the final battle, about focusing on what you can control and trusting the rest to others. He was a wise man. He was more than that. He was proof that ordinary people can do extraordinary things when they believe in something bigger than themselves." Nodded. "That is what this whole thing has been about. Not ships or weapons or tactics, just people, refusing to give up." Outside the window, the ships of the Galactic Assembly began to move. They spread out toward the stars they would now explore as equals. Some headed to old colonies, some to new frontiers, all of them carrying the message that the galaxy had changed forever. Watched them go. He felt the weight of history on his shoulders, but he also felt the promise of tomorrow in his heart. His communicator beeped. "Lieutenant Commander Long, please report to the bridge. We have a new mission." He smiled. There was always a new mission, always another challenge, always another chance to prove that humanity had earned its place among the stars. "On my way." He took one last look at the ships spreading across the galaxy. Somewhere out there, among those distant stars, Captain Blake and the crew of the Constellation were watching. He was sure of it. "We did it, Captain," he whispered. "We really did it." Then he turned and walked toward the bridge, toward the future, toward whatever came next. The peace talks had failed all those years ago. The conquered had demanded that humanity kneel. Instead, humanity had stood tall and answered with a voice that shook the galaxy to its very core. And now, because of that answer, the stars belonged to everyone. A new dawn was rising across the galaxy, and humanity would face it standing tall, side by side with all the species who had once been enemies but were now friends. The old order was dead. The new order had just begun. And the best was yet to come.